What if I told you that procrastination isn't a character flaw, but a neurological response that you can completely rewire? Every time you delay, avoid, or put off important tasks, your brain is following ancient survival patterns that once kept humans alive, but now keep you stuck in cycles of guilt, stress, and underachievement. The difference between those who achieve their goals and those who remain trapped in endless cycles of tomorrow, next week, next month, isn't willpower. It's understanding how your brain works and using that knowledge to hack your neural pathways for instant action. Right now, as you listen to this, your brain is making split-second decisions about what deserves your attention. But here's the shocking truth. You're not in control of those decisions. Your limbic system, the ancient part of your brain designed for survival, is hijacking your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for planning and long-term thinking. Every time you choose Netflix over that important project, your brain is literally rewiring itself to make procrastination easier and action harder. But what if you could reverse this process? What if you could train your brain to crave productivity the same way it now craves distraction? The science is clear. Neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to reorganize itself, means you can literally reshape your neural pathways to eliminate procrastination forever. This isn't motivational speaking. This is brain science. In the next 2 hours, you'll discover the exact neurological mechanisms behind procrastination, why traditional advice fails 99% of people, and the step-by-step system to reprogram your brain for unstoppable action. By the time you finish listening, you'll never think about procrastination the same way again. More importantly, you'll have the tools to ensure you never procrastinate again. Chapter 1. The neuroscience of procrastination. Your brain is not designed for the modern world. While you're trying to focus on spreadsheets, presentations, and long-term goals, your brain is still operating on software that was programmed 200,000 years ago, when our biggest concerns were finding food and avoiding predators. Understanding this fundamental mismatch is the first step to hacking your procrastination patterns. When you sit down to work on something important but not immediately urgent, your brain interprets this as non-essential for survival. The limbic system, which includes your amygdala and other primitive structures, doesn't care about your promotion, your business goals, or your dreams. It only cares about immediate threats and immediate rewards. This is why you can binge-watch 8 hours of television without effort but struggle to focus on important work for 30 minutes. The moment you think about starting a challenging task, your brain initiates what neuroscientists call the pain response. The anterior cingulate cortex and the insula, brain regions associated with physical pain, literally light up when you consider doing something that requires effort or might lead to failure. Your brain perceives work as a threat to your comfort and safety. This isn't weakness, it's biology. Here's where it gets fascinating. Procrastination activates the same neural pathways as addiction. When you avoid a task and choose something immediately pleasurable instead, your brain releases dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with reward and pleasure. Over time, this creates what researchers call an avoidance-reward loop. Your brain learns that avoiding difficult tasks leads to immediate relief and pleasure, so it starts to crave this avoidance. Dr. Timothy Pichel's research at Carleton University shows that chronic procrastinators have underdeveloped prefrontal cortexes and overactive limbic systems. The prefrontal cortex is responsible for executive functions like planning, decision-making, and impulse control. When this region is weak, the limbic system dominates decision-making, leading to choices based on immediate emotional states rather than long-term consequences. But here's the breakthrough. Your brain's neuroplasticity means these patterns can be completely rewired. Every time you choose action over avoidance, you strengthen neural pathways associated with discipline and weaken pathways associated with procrastination. The key is understanding that this rewiring happens at the cellular level through a process called myelination, where neural pathways become more efficient and automatic through repetition. The most successful people aren't genetically programmed for productivity. They've simply trained their brains differently. They've created what neuroscientists call cognitive load reduction by automating decision-making around productivity. When action becomes automatic, procrastination becomes impossible. The temporal discounting principle explains why your brain chooses immediate small rewards over larger future rewards. Research by Dr. Walter Mischel shows that the ability to delay gratification literally changes brain structure. People who can delay gratification have larger prefrontal cortexes and smaller limbic systems. This isn't fixed, it's trainable. Your brain also operates on what's called the planning fallacy, where you consistently underestimate how long tasks will take and overestimate your future motivation. This creates a cycle where you always believe you'll be more motivated tomorrow, next week, or next month. Understanding this cognitive bias allows you to plan realistic timelines and work with your brain's limitations rather than against them. The neurotransmitter balance in your brain directly affects your ability to start and sustain action. Dopamine drives motivation and reward-seeking behavior. Serotonin affects mood and confidence. Norepinephrine impacts focus and alertness. GABA controls anxiety and overthinking. By understanding how different activities and environments affect these neurotransmitters, you can engineer your days for optimal brain chemistry. Most people try to fight their brain's natural tendencies instead of working with them. The key is accepting that your brain will always prefer easy over difficult, immediate over delayed, and certain over uncertain. Once you stop fighting these tendencies and start designing systems that align with your brain's preferences, procrastination becomes practically impossible. Chapter 2. The 4 types of procrastinators. Not all procrastination is created equal. After analyzing thousands of case studies and brain scans, researchers have identified 4 distinct neurological patterns that lead to procrastination. Understanding which type you are is crucial because each type requires a completely different intervention strategy. Using the wrong approach for your type is why most anti-procrastination advice fails. The perfectionist procrastinator operates from an overactive anterior cingulate cortex, the brain region responsible for error detection and conflict monitoring. Their brains are hypersensitive to potential mistakes and imperfections. When they consider starting a task, their brain immediately floods with thoughts about all the ways it could go wrong, all the standards they might not meet, and all the criticism they might face. Perfectionist procrastinators don't procrastinate because they're lazy. They procrastinate because their brain interprets anything less than perfect as dangerous. Their neural pathways have been conditioned to associate, starting with the possibility of failure, which their brain treats as a threat to their identity and social standing. They'll spend hours researching, planning, and preparing because these activities feel productive while avoiding the terror of actual execution. The brain chemistry of perfectionist procrastinators shows elevated cortisol levels, the stress hormone, whenever they consider beginning imperfect work. Their dopamine system is calibrated for all-or-nothing rewards, meaning they only experience satisfaction from flawless completion. This creates an impossible standard that guarantees procrastination, because the brain knows perfection is unattainable. The dreamer procrastinator has an overactive default mode network, the brain regions active during rest and imagination. They excel at big-picture thinking and creative visualization, but struggle with detail-oriented execution. Their brains are wired for possibility and potential rather than concrete action steps. They can spend hours fantasizing about outcomes, but feel overwhelmed when faced with the mundane steps required to achieve those outcomes. Dreamer procrastinators have weak connections between their default mode network and their executive attention network. This means they struggle to translate abstract ideas into specific actions. Their dopamine system is triggered by imagining success rather than achieving it, which tricks their brain into feeling like they've already accomplished their goals through visualization alone. The brain scans of dreamer procrastinators show hyperactivity in regions associated with imagination and future thinking, but minimal activation in areas responsible for sequential planning and step-by-step execution. They need systems that bridge the gap between vision and action, breaking down dreams into neurologically manageable components. The worry procrastinator is dominated by an overactive amygdala and anxious neural pathways. Their brains are constantly scanning for potential threats and negative outcomes. When they consider starting a task, their brain immediately generates catastrophic scenarios about what could go wrong. This isn't rational fear. It's neurological hypersensitivity to uncertainty and potential negative outcomes. Worry procrastinators have elevated baseline anxiety levels and hypersensitive stress response systems. Their brains interpret any uncertain outcome as potentially dangerous, so they avoid starting tasks that don't guarantee positive results. They'll research obsessively, seek constant reassurance, and delay action until they feel certain about outcomes, which never happens because certainty doesn't exist. The neurochemistry of worry procrastinators shows chronically elevated cortisol and norepinephrine, creating a state of constant vigilance that makes focused action extremely difficult. Their brain's threat detection system is so sensitive that normal work tasks trigger fight-or-flight responses. They need interventions that calm their nervous system before addressing productivity. The crisis procrastinator has an under-responsive dopamine system that only activates under extreme pressure. Their brains have become addicted to the neurochemical cocktail produced by last-minute deadlines: high dopamine, norepinephrine, and adrenaline. They've literally trained their brains to only function productively in crisis mode. Crisis procrastinators aren't lazy. They're neurochemically dependent on stress hormones for motivation. Their brain's reward system has been hijacked by the intense neurochemical response to deadline pressure. Normal motivation feels boring and insufficient compared to the chemical high of crisis-driven productivity. They unconsciously create emergencies because their brain craves the neurochemical intensity. The brain structure of crisis procrastinators shows weakened baseline motivation circuits but hyper-responsive stress-reward pathways. They need strategies that artificially create urgency and pressure without relying on actual emergencies. Their neuroplasticity interventions must focus on strengthening intrinsic motivation pathways while reducing dependence on external pressure. Understanding your procrastination type isn't about labeling yourself. It's about targeting the specific neural pathways that drive your avoidance patterns. Each type requires different neurotransmitter balancing, different environmental modifications, and different behavioral interventions. The one-size-fits-all approach to procrastination fails because it ignores these fundamental neurological differences. Most people are a combination of types, with one dominant pattern. The key is identifying your primary type and designing your intervention strategy accordingly. Your brain's procrastination pattern was created through years of conditioning, but neuroplasticity means it can be completely rewired with the right approach. Chapter 3. The Brain Hijack System. Your brain makes the decision to procrastinate approximately 0.35 seconds before you're consciously aware of it. This discovery, made through advanced neuroimaging technology, reveals that procrastination isn't a conscious choice. It's an unconscious neural program running in the background of your mind. Understanding this timing is crucial because it means you can't fight procrastination at the conscious level. You have to intercept it at the unconscious level. The brain hijack happens through what neuroscientists call the habit loop, a neurological pattern consisting of a cue, routine, and reward. But procrastination hijacking is more sophisticated than simple habits. It's a complex neural program involving multiple brain systems working together to keep you stuck in avoidance patterns. The hijack begins with environmental or internal cues that trigger your brain's threat detection system. These cues can be anything: seeing your laptop, thinking about a deadline, receiving an email, or even feeling a certain emotion. Your brain has been conditioned to associate these cues with potential discomfort, effort, or failure. The moment your unconscious mind detects these cues, it initiates an avoidance protocol. Within milliseconds, your amygdala signals potential threat to your anterior cingulate cortex, which then suppresses activity in your prefrontal cortex. This neural sequence happens so quickly that you're not consciously aware of it. You just suddenly feel an inexplicable resistance to starting, an urge to check your phone, or a desire to do something else. This isn't lack of willpower. It's your brain protecting you from perceived danger. The hijack system has 3 primary interception points where you can regain control. The first interception point is environmental preemption, where you modify your environment to prevent triggering cues. The second is neural interruption, where you catch the hijack process during the 0.35-second window before it becomes conscious. The third is conscious override, where you use specific techniques to reverse the hijack after it's already occurred. Environmental preemption works by eliminating or modifying the environmental cues that trigger your procrastination programs. Your brain makes thousands of unconscious decisions based on environmental signals. By strategically designing your environment, you can program your unconscious mind to default toward action instead of avoidance. This isn't willpower, it's environmental psychology. The most powerful environmental modifications target what researchers call choice architecture, the way options are presented to your brain. When productive choices are easier than unproductive choices, your brain will default toward productivity without conscious effort. This requires understanding the principle of cognitive load, where your brain always chooses the path that requires the least mental energy. Neural interruption requires training your conscious mind to recognize the early warning signs of procrastination hijacking. These signs include subtle changes in body posture, breathing patterns, mental imagery, and internal dialogue. By developing awareness of these early indicators, you can catch the hijack process before it fully activates and redirect your neural pathways toward action. The most effective neural interruption technique is called pattern interruption, where you immediately engage in a specific physical or mental action the moment you detect hijack signals. This could be taking 3 deep breaths, standing up and sitting down, counting backwards from 10, or asking yourself a specific question. The key is interrupting the neural cascade before it reaches full activation. Conscious override techniques work after the hijack has already occurred and you're fully aware of your resistance to starting. These techniques work by engaging different neural pathways that can override your brain's avoidance programming. The most powerful override technique is called neural bridging, where you create a neurological connection between your current state and your desired action. Neural bridging works by activating positive neural pathways before attempting to start the avoided task. This could involve listening to specific music that puts you in a productive state, doing a brief physical exercise that boosts confidence, or engaging in a mental visualization that activates motivation circuits. Once these positive pathways are activated, your brain is more receptive to engaging in challenging tasks. The brain hijack system also includes what researchers call maintenance protocols, unconscious programs that keep you stuck in procrastination, even after you've started working. These include internal monitoring systems that constantly evaluate whether you should continue working or find an escape route. Understanding these maintenance protocols allows you to disable them and maintain sustained focus. Advanced brain hijack interception involves understanding your personal hijack signature, the specific sequence of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that occur during your procrastination episodes. By mapping this signature, you can identify the optimal intervention points and design personalized interception strategies that work with your unique neural patterns. The ultimate goal of the brain hijack system isn't to eliminate all resistance to work. It's to retrain your unconscious mind to associate productivity with safety and reward rather than threat and discomfort. This neuroplastic rewiring happens through consistent application of interception techniques until new neural pathways become automatic. Chapter 4. The 2-minute rule revolution. The human brain is terrible at estimating time and effort, but it's incredibly accurate at detecting whether something feels manageable or overwhelming. This is why the 2-minute rule works at a neurological level that traditional productivity advice completely misses. The rule isn't about actually completing tasks in 2 minutes. It's about hijacking your brain's threat detection system to initiate action when your neural pathways would normally trigger avoidance. Your brain evaluates every potential task through what neuroscientists call cognitive load assessment, an unconscious calculation of the mental energy required versus the mental energy available. When your brain perceives a task as requiring more cognitive resources than you currently have, it automatically triggers procrastination protocols. The 2-minute rule exploits this system by making tasks appear neurologically manageable. The neurological magic happens in the anterior cingulate cortex, which constantly monitors cognitive demands and available mental resources. When you commit to doing something for only 2 minutes, this brain region calculates the energy requirement as minimal and allows the prefrontal cortex to initiate action. Once action begins, momentum builds through neural pathways that are completely different from those involved in starting. Starting and continuing use different neurological systems. Starting requires overcoming inertia and activating motivation circuits. Continuing relies on momentum and flow, states that maintain themselves once established. The 2-minute rule is specifically designed to hack the starting problem by making the initial energy investment feel negligible to your brain's energy management system. But the revolution goes deeper than simple task initiation. The 2-minute rule reprograms your brain's relationship with overwhelming projects by breaking them into neurologically digestible components. Your brain can't process abstract concepts like write a book or learn Spanish, but it can easily process concrete actions like write one sentence or study 5 vocabulary words. The rule works through what psychologists call the Zeigarnik effect, where your brain has a natural tendency to complete tasks once they've been started. When you begin something with the intention of only doing it for 2 minutes, your brain's completion circuits often take over and drive you to continue beyond the minimum commitment. This happens because stopping mid-task requires more cognitive energy than continuing. Advanced application of the 2-minute rule involves understanding that different types of cognitive load require different time thresholds. Creative tasks might require a 5-minute rule because creative thinking needs longer to activate. Analytical tasks might work with a 1-minute rule because logical thinking can engage more quickly. Physical tasks might need a 30-second rule because physical momentum builds rapidly. The neuroplasticity aspect of the 2-minute rule is its most powerful feature. Every time you successfully start a task using this method, you strengthen neural pathways associated with action initiation and weaken pathways associated with procrastination. Over time, your brain begins to default towards starting rather than avoiding, even without conscious application of the rule. The rule also addresses what researchers call analysis paralysis, where your brain gets stuck in planning mode because it's trying to solve the entire problem before starting. By committing to only 2 minutes, you give your brain permission to start without having figured out every detail. This is crucial because your brain often can't solve problems until it begins engaging with them practically. One of the most sophisticated applications involves understanding the difference between resistance and genuine fatigue. Your brain will often signal resistance to challenging tasks by creating the feeling of tiredness or mental fog. The 2-minute rule helps distinguish between actual depletion and protective avoidance by testing whether you can maintain focus for a minimal time commitment. The rule becomes revolutionary when you realize that most procrastination isn't about not wanting to do things, it's about your brain protecting you from the possibility of sustained effort that might lead to failure or disappointment. By removing the pressure of sustained effort, the 2-minute rule disarms your brain's protective mechanisms and allows natural motivation to emerge. Strategic implementation involves creating 2-minute protocols for different types of tasks and different mental states. When you're mentally fresh, you might commit to 2 minutes knowing you'll likely continue for much longer. When you're depleted, you might genuinely only do 2 minutes, but still maintain your streak of daily action, which preserves neural pathways. The compound effect of the 2-minute rule is extraordinary. Small daily actions create neurological momentum that builds over time. Your brain begins to identify you as someone who follows through on commitments, which fundamentally changes your self-concept and automatic behavioral patterns. This identity shift happens at the neural level through repeated activation of self-efficacy circuits. Understanding the 2-minute rule's relationship to dopamine is crucial for long-term success. Each successful 2-minute session triggers a small dopamine release, which reinforces the behavior. Over time, your brain begins to crave these small wins, creating positive addiction to starting rather than negative addiction to avoiding. Chapter 5. Environment Design for Unstoppable Action. Your environment is secretly controlling your brain and determining your productivity levels every moment of every day. While you're focused on building willpower and motivation, your surroundings are sending thousands of unconscious signals to your neural pathways, either programming you for action or procrastination. The most successful people don't rely on self-discipline. They engineer their environments to make productivity automatic and procrastination nearly impossible. Environmental psychology research shows that your brain makes over 35 zero decisions per day, and 95% of them are unconscious responses to environmental cues. Every object in your workspace, every color on your walls, every sound in your background is influencing your brain's neurochemical state and decision-making patterns. By strategically designing these environmental factors, you can hack your unconscious mind to default toward focused action. The principle of environmental priming explains how subtle cues in your surroundings activate specific neural networks without your awareness. When your brain detects environmental signals associated with productivity, it automatically activates focus-related neurotransmitters and suppresses distraction-seeking behaviors. Conversely, environments associated with leisure trigger relaxation, neurotransmitters, and motivation-suppressing hormones. Visual environment design targets your brain's visual processing system, which consumes approximately 30% of your brain's total energy and directly influences cognitive function. Clean, organized spaces reduce cognitive load by minimizing visual distractions that compete for your attention. Cluttered environments force your brain to constantly process irrelevant information, depleting mental energy that could be used for productive tasks. The neuroscience of color psychology reveals how different wavelengths of light affect brain chemistry and cognitive performance. Blue light enhances alertness and focus by stimulating photoreceptors that regulate circadian rhythms and attention networks. Green environments reduce mental fatigue by activating parasympathetic nervous system responses. Red can increase urgency and motivation, but may also elevate stress hormones if overused. Strategic object placement leverages your brain's associative memory networks to trigger specific behavioral patterns. When productivity tools are visible and easily accessible, your brain unconsciously primes for work-related activities. When distracting objects are hidden or removed, your brain's attention system isn't constantly battling temptation. This isn't about willpower, it's about reducing cognitive friction. The acoustic environment profoundly impacts brainwave patterns and cognitive performance. Specific frequencies can induce focus states, while others promote creativity or relaxation. White noise masks distracting environmental sounds and helps maintain consistent brainwave patterns. Binaural beats can synchronize different brain regions to enhance specific cognitive functions like attention, memory, or problem-solving. Temperature regulation affects cognitive performance through its impact on neurotransmitter function and blood flow to the brain. Slightly cool environments, around 68–72 degrees Fahrenheit, optimize alertness and mental clarity. Warmer temperatures can induce lethargy by triggering parasympathetic nervous system responses designed to conserve energy in hot conditions. Lighting design influences your brain's circadian rhythms and energy levels throughout the day. Bright, full-spectrum light in the morning activates cortisol and dopamine production, enhancing motivation and alertness. Dimmer, warmer light in the evening promotes melatonin production and helps your brain transition to rest and recovery modes that are essential for next-day cognitive performance. The proximity principle explains how the physical distance between you and different options influences unconscious decision-making. Productive activities should require minimal physical effort to access, while distracting activities should require additional steps or barriers. Your brain automatically calculates energy costs and chooses options that require the least physical and cognitive effort. Digital environment design is crucial because your devices are constantly sending signals to your brain that either support or sabotage productivity. Notification settings, app placement, and screen configurations all influence your brain's attention patterns and stress responses. Strategic digital design can turn your devices from distraction machines into productivity amplifiers. The scent environment affects cognitive performance through the olfactory system's direct connection to memory and emotion centers in the brain. Certain scents like peppermint and rosemary enhance alertness and cognitive function. Lavender and vanilla can reduce stress hormones that interfere with focus. Consistent scent associations can also serve as environmental triggers for specific mental states. Social environment engineering involves understanding how the presence and expectations of others influence your brain's motivation and accountability systems. Visible accountability measures like progress tracking or scheduled check-ins activate social motivation circuits. Working in environments where others are also focused creates mirror neuron responses that automatically enhance your own focus levels. Microenvironment optimization focuses on the immediate 3-foot radius around your primary work location. This space has the most direct impact on your unconscious brain state because it's within your peripheral vision and immediate reach. Optimizing this microenvironment can have dramatic effects on productivity even if the larger environment isn't perfect. The ultimate goal of environment design is creating what researchers call cognitive ease, where productive behaviors require less mental energy than unproductive behaviors. When your environment consistently signals productivity and removes barriers to action, your brain naturally defaults toward focused work without conscious effort or willpower depletion. Chapter 6. Dopamine hacking for instant motivation. Dopamine is not the pleasure chemical most people think it island. It's the anticipation chemical, the seeking chemical, the motivation molecule that drives all goal-directed behavior. Understanding how to manipulate your dopamine system is the difference between waiting for motivation to strike and creating motivation on command. Your brain's dopamine pathways can be hacked, optimized, and weaponized to eliminate procrastination permanently. The dopamine system operates through 4 distinct pathways in your brain, each serving different functions and responding to different triggers. The mesolimbic pathway drives reward-seeking and motivation. The mesocortical pathway handles executive function and working memory. The nigrostriatal pathway controls movement and habit formation. The tuberoin-fundibular pathway regulates hormones and physiological functions. Mastering dopamine hacking requires understanding how to activate these pathways strategically. Most people have accidentally trained their brains to expect massive dopamine hits from low-effort activities like social media, video games, or entertainment. This creates what researchers call dopamine dysregulation. where your brain's baseline dopamine levels drop so low that normal productive activities feel unrewarding and unmotivating. The key to fixing this isn't eliminating all pleasurable activities. It's strategically timing dopamine releases to support rather than sabotage productivity. The dopamine prediction error system is crucial for understanding motivation. Your brain doesn't release dopamine when you get a reward. It releases dopamine when you anticipate getting a reward that's better than expected. This is why surprise bonuses feel more motivating than expected salaries, and why variable reward schedules are more addictive than consistent ones. You can hack this system by creating deliberate uncertainty and surprise around productive activities. Strategic dopamine scheduling involves timing your dopamine-triggering activities to support rather than compete with productive work. The most effective approach is dopamine stacking, where you pair naturally rewarding activities with tasks you tend to procrastinate on. This could mean listening to your favorite music only while doing administrative work, or drinking your favorite coffee only during morning writing sessions. The dopamine baseline reset is essential for people whose brains have become adapted to high-stimulation environments. This involves temporarily reducing all high dopamine activities, social media, gaming, binge-watching, impulse shopping, to allow your brain's dopamine receptors to regain sensitivity. During this reset period, normal productive activities begin to feel naturally rewarding again because your brain isn't constantly comparing them to artificial highs. Micro-rewards are small, immediate dopamine triggers that you can deploy throughout productive work sessions to maintain motivation and focus. These might include checking off completed tasks, taking a short walk after finishing a challenging section, or giving yourself small treats for meeting specific milestones. The key is making these rewards contingent on productive behavior, rather than giving them away freely. The anticipation amplification technique works by creating specific rituals or environmental cues that signal to your brain that something rewarding is about to happen. This could be a particular playlist that you only listen to when doing focused work, a special workspace setup that you only use for important projects, or a pre-work routine that consistently predicts productive sessions. Over time, these cues themselves begin to trigger dopamine release. Progress visualization is one of the most powerful dopamine hacking techniques because your brain's reward system is activated not just by achieving goals, but by perceiving progress toward goals. Visual progress indicators like progress bars, completed checklists, or before and after comparisons trigger dopamine release by making abstract progress feel concrete and rewarding. The novelty injection principle recognizes that your brain's dopamine system responds strongly to new and unexpected experiences. You can prevent habituation to productive activities by regularly introducing small changes to your work environment, trying new productivity techniques, or approaching familiar tasks from different angles. This keeps your brain's curiosity and engagement systems activated. Social dopamine leverages your brain's powerful social reward systems to support individual productivity. This includes working alongside others, sharing progress publicly, or creating accountability partnerships where others' approval becomes tied to your productive output. Your brain's social reward circuits often provide stronger motivation than individual reward circuits. The compound dopamine effect occurs when you stack multiple dopamine-triggering elements together strategically. This might involve working in a novel environment while listening to energizing music with a visible progress tracker after a brief physical exercise session. When multiple dopamine pathways are activated simultaneously, The motivational effect is exponentially greater than any single element alone. Understanding dopamine tolerance is crucial for long-term success. Just like drug tolerance, your brain adapts to repeated dopamine triggers by reducing their effectiveness over time. This is why motivation techniques that work initially often stop working after a few weeks. The solution is rotating between different dopamine hacking strategies and periodically taking breaks from high-stimulation activities. The dopamine action feedback loop is perhaps the most important concept for eliminating procrastination permanently. When you consistently pair dopamine release with productive action, your brain begins to crave productivity, the same way it once craved procrastination. This creates a positive addiction to achievement that makes avoiding important tasks feel uncomfortable rather than comfortable. Advanced dopamine hacking involves understanding your personal dopamine signature, the specific combination of triggers, timing, and intensities that most effectively activate your motivation systems. This requires experimentation and tracking to identify what works best for your unique brain chemistry and lifestyle circumstances. Chapter 7. The Habit Stacking Revolution. Your brain is constantly looking for ways to conserve energy, and habits are its most efficient energy-saving mechanism. Once a behavior becomes habitual, it requires virtually no conscious thought or willpower to execute. The habit-stacking revolution takes advantage of this neurological efficiency by linking new productive behaviors to existing automatic routines, creating chains of actions that execute without conscious effort or resistance. Traditional habit formation focuses on building individual habits one at a time, but this approach ignores how your brain actually processes behavioral sequences. Your neural pathways naturally link related behaviors together through associative learning, creating what neuroscientists call behavioral chains. When you understand and leverage these natural linking mechanisms, you can build complex, productive routines that feel effortless. The neurological foundation of habit stacking lies in the basal ganglia, brain structures that automate repetitive behaviors to free up conscious processing power for novel challenges. When behaviors are consistently linked together in sequence, the basal ganglia create neural pathways that trigger the entire sequence automatically when the first behavior is initiated. This is why you can drive familiar routes without conscious thought or perform morning routines on autopilot. Existing habits serve as neurological anchors for new behaviors because they already have established neural pathways and trigger mechanisms. When you attach a new behavior to an existing habit, you're essentially hijacking the neurological momentum that already exists. The key is choosing anchor habits that occur consistently and have clear, specific completion points that can serve as triggers for the next behavior. The habit stacking formula follows a specific neurological sequence. After I complete existing habit X, I will immediately do new behavior Y. The word immediately is crucial because temporal proximity strengthens neural associations. When behaviors are separated by time or intervening activities, your brain doesn't create strong associative links between them. The closer in time and space the behaviors occur, the stronger the neural connection. Habit stacking works best when the linked behaviors share similar mental energy requirements and contextual elements. Trying to stack a high-energy creative task after a low-energy routine task often fails because your brain has to make too large a cognitive shift. Successful stacks maintain consistent energy levels and environmental contexts, allowing your brain to maintain the same neural activation patterns throughout the sequence. The completion trigger principle ensures that habit stacks actually execute reliably. Each behavior in the stack must have a clear, specific endpoint that naturally triggers the next behavior. Vague completion points like after I exercise or when I finish reading create ambiguity that disrupts the automatic nature of the habit stack. Specific completion triggers like after I put my workout clothes in the hamper or after I close my book create clear neural cues for the next behavior. Micro-stacking involves creating very small behavioral sequences that gradually expand over time. Instead of trying to build elaborate routines immediately, you start with just 2 linked behaviors and allow the stack to grow naturally as the neural pathways strengthen. This approach works with your brain's preference for gradual adaptation rather than dramatic changes that trigger resistance. Context stacking leverages environmental cues to strengthen habit chains. When habit stacks occur in consistent physical locations with consistent environmental conditions, your brain's spatial memory systems reinforce the behavioral associations. This is why people often struggle to maintain habits when their environment changes, and why establishing dedicated spaces for specific habit stacks dramatically improves success rates. The habit stack hierarchy recognizes that some habits are more neurologically stable than others and should serve as the foundation for building larger behavioral chains. Physiological habits like eating, sleeping, and bathroom routines are the most stable because they're driven by biological needs. Social habits like family interactions or work meetings are moderately stable. Personal development habits are the least stable and should be attached to more stable anchor points. Emotional state stacking takes advantage of the fact that certain activities naturally produce specific emotional states that can support subsequent behaviors. For example, stacking mentally challenging work after physical exercise leverages the confidence and energy boost that exercise provides. Stacking creative work after meditation takes advantage of the calm, open mental state that meditation produces. The neural pathway loading principle explains why some habit stacks feel effortless while others require ongoing willpower. When behaviors are neurologically compatible and properly sequenced, the neural pathways that support one behavior naturally flow into the pathways that support the next behavior. Incompatible behaviors require your brain to switch between different neural networks, creating cognitive friction and energy expenditure. Habit stack troubleshooting involves identifying and fixing the specific points where behavioral chains break down. Common failure points include unclear triggers, energy mismatches between linked behaviors, environmental inconsistencies, and emotional state conflicts. By systematically analyzing and adjusting these elements, you can create habit stacks that execute with machine-like reliability. The compound momentum effect is the ultimate goal of habit stacking, where completing one productive behavior automatically triggers a cascade of additional productive behaviors. When properly designed, habit stacks create self-reinforcing cycles where success builds upon success, making it easier to maintain productivity than to break the chain. This transforms productivity from something you have to force into something that happens automatically. Advanced habit stacking involves creating multiple interconnected behavioral chains that support different areas of your life while sharing common elements and trigger mechanisms. This creates a comprehensive productivity operating system that runs automatically in the background of your daily life. ensuring consistent progress toward your goals without relying on motivation, willpower, or conscious decision-making. Chapter 8. Emotional Regulation and the Procrastination Connection. Procrastination is fundamentally an emotional regulation problem disguised as a time management problem. Every time you avoid a task, you're not actually avoiding the task itself. You're avoiding the negative emotions you associate with that task. Fear of failure, perfectionism, overwhelm, boredom, frustration. These emotional states trigger your brain's avoidance mechanisms faster than any logical analysis of the task's importance or urgency. The emotional brain, specifically the limbic system, processes information approximately 6 times faster than the logical brain, the prefrontal cortex. This means that emotional reactions to tasks occur before rational evaluation has even begun. By the time you consciously think about whether to start a task, your emotional brain has already decided whether it feels safe or threatening. And this emotional assessment largely determines your behavioral response. Emotional avoidance creates what psychologists call experiential avoidance, where you unconsciously organize your life around avoiding uncomfortable emotional states rather than pursuing meaningful goals. This leads to a gradual narrowing of your life experience, as you avoid more and more activities that might trigger negative emotions. Breaking this pattern requires learning to tolerate and work with difficult emotions rather than avoiding them. The emotion-action connection operates through neural pathways that link specific emotional states to specific behavioral responses. When you repeatedly avoid tasks while feeling anxious, your brain strengthens the neural association between anxiety and avoidance. Over time, anxiety automatically triggers avoidance behaviors without conscious decision-making. Reversing this requires deliberately creating new neural pathways that link uncomfortable emotions to productive action. Emotional regulation techniques for procrastination focus on changing your relationship with difficult emotions rather than trying to eliminate them entirely. The goal isn't to feel perfectly calm and motivated before starting. It's to develop the ability to take action while experiencing uncomfortable emotions. This skill, called emotional tolerance, is perhaps the most important factor in long-term productivity and goal achievement. The RAIN technique provides a systematic approach to working with procrastination-triggering emotions. Recognition involves noticing and naming the specific emotions you're experiencing without judgment. Acceptance means allowing the emotions to exist without trying to fight or fix them immediately. Investigation involves exploring the physical sensations and thoughts associated with the emotions. Non-attachment means remembering that emotions are temporary experiences rather than permanent aspects of your identity. Cognitive reframing addresses the thought patterns that amplify procrastination-inducing emotions. Most procrastination is driven by catastrophic thinking, where your brain imagines worst-case scenarios about starting or completing tasks. By learning to identify and challenge these thought patterns, you can reduce the emotional intensity that triggers avoidance behaviors. This isn't positive thinking. It's realistic thinking that considers multiple possible outcomes rather than focusing exclusively on negative ones. The emotional regulation hierarchy helps you choose appropriate intervention strategies based on the intensity of your emotional state. For mild emotional discomfort, simple breathing techniques or brief mindfulness exercises may be sufficient. For moderate emotional intensity, More structured techniques like progressive muscle relaxation or journaling might be needed. For intense emotional states, professional therapeutic interventions or temporary task postponement might be necessary. Somatic regulation techniques work with the body-emotion connection to reduce procrastination-triggering emotional states. Since emotions are experienced as physical sensations in the body, changing your physical state can directly impact your emotional state. This includes breathing exercises that activate the parasympathetic nervous system, progressive muscle relaxation that releases physical tension, and movement practices that shift energy and mood. The window of tolerance concept explains why emotional regulation strategies work better at certain times than others. Everyone has an optimal zone of emotional arousal where they can think clearly and take effective action. When emotional intensity is too low, you might feel unmotivated or disconnected. When emotional intensity is too high, you might feel overwhelmed or reactive. Learning to recognize and work within your window of tolerance dramatically improves your ability to take action despite difficult emotions. Emotional exposure therapy for procrastination involves gradually and systematically exposing yourself to the uncomfortable emotions associated with challenging tasks, while learning that these emotions won't actually harm you. This process, similar to exposure therapy for phobias, helps desensitize your brain's threat detection system to normal work-related emotions like uncertainty, effort, and potential failure. The emotional regulation practice schedule recognizes that emotional skills, like physical skills, require regular practice to maintain and improve. This involves setting aside specific time for emotional regulation practice when you're not in crisis mode, so these skills are readily available when you need them most. Regular practice also strengthens the neural pathways associated with emotional regulation, making these skills more automatic over time. Values-based motivation provides emotional fuel for working through difficult tasks by connecting specific actions to your deeper personal values and long-term goals. When tasks feel meaningful and aligned with what you care about most, your brain's motivation centers provide emotional energy that can overcome temporary discomfort. This technique involves regularly reconnecting with your core values and explicitly linking daily tasks to these larger purposes. Advanced emotional regulation for procrastination involves developing what researchers call emotional granularity, the ability to distinguish between subtle differences in emotional states and respond appropriately to each one. Instead of experiencing all negative emotions as generic discomfort that triggers avoidance, you learn to identify specific emotions like anxiety, frustration, boredom, or overwhelm and apply targeted interventions for each emotional state. Chapter 9. The psychology of momentum and flow states. Momentum is not just a physics concept. It's a psychological and neurological phenomenon that can be understood, created, and sustained through specific brain-based techniques. When you have momentum, productive action feels effortless and natural. When you lack momentum, even simple tasks feel overwhelming and impossible. Understanding the psychology and neuroscience of momentum allows you to generate productivity on command rather than waiting for inspiration to strike. The neurological basis of momentum lies in what researchers call neural priming, where recent brain activity makes similar future activity more likely and efficient. When you engage in focused, productive work, you activate specific neural networks that remain partially active even after the work session ends. This residual activation makes it easier to re-engage in similar activities because the relevant neural pathways are already warmed up and ready to fire. Momentum operates through the brain's pattern recognition systems, which are constantly looking for behavioral patterns to automate. When you establish consistent patterns of productive action, your brain begins to expect and prepare for continued productivity. This expectation creates a neurological momentum that makes sustained effort feel more natural than stopping. Conversely, patterns of procrastination create expectations for continued avoidance. The activation energy principle explains why starting is always the hardest part of any task. Your brain requires significantly more energy to initiate new neural activity than to continue existing neural activity. This is why the first 5 minutes of work often feel the most difficult. But once you're engaged, continuing feels much easier. Understanding this principle helps you focus your energy on overcoming initial resistance, rather than expecting sustained effort to feel easy. Micro-momentum involves creating the smallest possible productive actions that can generate psychological momentum without triggering resistance. This might mean opening a document, writing a single sentence, or organizing one small area of your workspace. These tiny actions activate the same neural networks involved in larger productive efforts, creating momentum that can carry you into more substantial work. The momentum maintenance system recognizes that momentum is fragile and requires specific strategies to sustain over time. This includes understanding natural energy rhythms and scheduling challenging work during peak momentum periods, creating transition rituals that preserve momentum between different tasks, and developing recovery protocols that rebuild momentum after breaks or interruptions. Flow states represent the ultimate expression of psychological momentum, where action and awareness merge, self-consciousness disappears, and performance reaches extraordinary levels. Flow occurs when your brain's default mode network, responsible for self-criticism and distraction, becomes quiet, while task-focused networks become hyperactive. This creates a state of effortless concentration where productivity feels almost addictive. The flow triggers that most reliably induce flow states include clear goals with immediate feedback, optimal challenge levels that match your skill level, elimination of distractions that could pull your attention away from the task, and deep engagement with activities that feel intrinsically meaningful. Understanding and deliberately creating these conditions allows you to access flow states more reliably. Attention residue is a phenomenon where part of your mental energy remains focused on previous tasks, reducing your ability to fully engage with current activities. This residue disrupts momentum by preventing complete neural engagement with new tasks. Effective momentum management requires attention-clearing techniques that fully disengage from previous activities before starting new ones. The momentum stack technique involves deliberately sequencing tasks to maximize momentum transfer between activities. This means starting with easier tasks that generate confidence and energy, then using that momentum to tackle more challenging work. It also involves grouping similar tasks together to maintain consistent neural activation patterns rather than constantly switching between different types of thinking. Environmental momentum refers to how your physical environment can either support or disrupt psychological momentum. Consistent workspaces, organized materials, and optimized lighting and temperature all contribute to momentum by reducing cognitive friction and environmental resistance. Changes in environment often disrupt momentum because your brain has to readjust to new spatial and sensory conditions. The momentum measurement system helps you track and optimize your momentum patterns over time. This involves monitoring your energy levels, productivity levels, and subjective sense of flow throughout different activities and time periods. By identifying when momentum naturally occurs and what factors support or disrupt it, you can design your schedule and environment to maximize momentum opportunities. Momentum recovery protocols become crucial when momentum is lost due to interruptions, breaks, or setbacks. These protocols help you quickly re-engage with productive work rather than losing entire days to momentum disruption. Effective recovery protocols include brief, reorienting activities that remind your brain of your current goals and progress, physical movement that reactivates energy systems, and environmental cues that signal the return to productive mode. The compound momentum effect occurs when sustained periods of productivity create self-reinforcing cycles where momentum builds upon itself. As you complete more tasks and achieve more goals, your confidence increases. Your identity as a productive person strengthens, and your brain's expectation for continued productivity grows. This creates an upward spiral where productivity becomes increasingly natural and effortless. Advanced momentum management involves understanding your personal momentum signature, the specific combination of factors that most reliably generate and sustain momentum for your unique brain and lifestyle. This includes identifying your optimal time periods for different types of work, understanding which environmental factors most strongly influence your momentum, and developing personalized protocols for generating momentum on demand. Chapter 10. Advanced Neural Programming Techniques. Your brain is the most sophisticated learning machine ever created, capable of completely rewiring itself based on repeated experiences and focused attention. Advanced neural programming takes advantage of this neuroplasticity to systematically reprogram procrastination patterns and install new automatic behaviors that support your goals. These techniques go beyond simple habit formation to actually reshape neural pathways at the cellular level. Visualization programming works by activating the same neural pathways used in actual performance, creating what neuroscientists call functional equivalence between imagined and real experiences. When you visualize performing a task successfully, your brain strengthens the neural networks associated with that behavior, making actual performance more likely and efficient. The key is creating vivid, detailed mental rehearsals that engage multiple sensory systems. The specificity principle in neural programming requires that visualization be extremely detailed and precise, rather than vague or general. Your brain responds to specific sensory information, emotional states, and sequential actions. Effective visualization includes seeing exactly what you'll be doing, feeling the emotions you want to experience, hearing the sounds in your environment, and mentally rehearsing the specific sequence of actions you'll take. Temporal programming involves mental rehearsal of entire productive time periods, including the transitions between different activities and the management of potential obstacles or distractions. This creates neural scripts that your brain can execute automatically when similar situations arise in reality. The more thoroughly you program these temporal sequences, the more automatically they execute in real life. State anchoring is a technique that associates specific physical or mental triggers with desired psychological states like focus, motivation, or calm confidence. By repeatedly pairing these triggers with positive states during visualization or actual peak performance experiences, you create neurological shortcuts that allow you to access these states on command. Common anchors include specific breathing patterns, physical gestures, or mental phrases. The neural pathway strengthening protocol uses the principle of synaptic potentiation, where neurons that fire together wire together. By repeatedly visualizing or practicing desired behaviors while in positive emotional states, you strengthen the neural connections that support these behaviors. The emotional component is crucial because emotions trigger the release of neurotransmitters that enhance neural plasticity. Mental modeling involves studying and mentally rehearsing the thought patterns, decision-making processes, and behavioral sequences of people who excel in areas where you want to improve. This isn't simple imitation. It's neural programming that installs new cognitive patterns by repeatedly activating the neural networks associated with expert performance. Your brain learns to default to these expert patterns through repetition. The neural interruption technique programs your brain to automatically interrupt procrastination patterns before they fully activate. This involves identifying the early warning signs of procrastination episodes, such as specific thoughts, emotions, or physical sensations, and programming automatic responses that redirect your neural activity toward productive action. With practice, these interruptions become as automatic as the original procrastination patterns. Cognitive restructuring at the neural level involves identifying and systematically replacing thought patterns that support procrastination with thought patterns that support action. This goes beyond positive thinking to actually rewiring the neural pathways that generate automatic thoughts and beliefs. The process requires consistent practice of new thought patterns until they become more neurologically dominant than the old patterns. The neural timing optimization technique recognizes that different types of neural programming are most effective at different times. Motor skill programming works best when combined with actual physical practice. Cognitive programming is most effective during relaxed, focused states. Emotional programming works best when you're already in positive emotional states. Understanding these timing principles maximizes the effectiveness of neural programming efforts. Subconscious programming techniques work with your brain's unconscious processing systems to install new behavioral patterns without conscious effort. This includes techniques like subliminal suggestion during relaxed states, repetitive exposure to success-oriented messages, and environmental programming that consistently reinforces desired behaviors through subtle environmental cues. The neural network integration process ensures that newly programmed behaviors integrate smoothly with your existing neural pathways rather than creating internal conflict. This involves identifying potential conflicts between new and old patterns and programming transition sequences that allow your brain to adopt new behaviors without abandoning useful aspects of old patterns. Cellular-level programming techniques work with the biological mechanisms of neural plasticity to accelerate and enhance the rewiring process. This includes optimizing factors that promote neural growth like sleep quality, nutrition, exercise, and stress management. It also includes understanding how different activities and substances can enhance or impair neural plasticity. The Neural Program Maintenance System recognizes that newly programmed neural pathways require ongoing reinforcement to remain stable and accessible. This involves creating maintenance schedules for key behaviors, monitoring for signs that neural programs are weakening, and implementing refresher programming sessions to maintain peak neural efficiency. Advanced neural programming integration involves creating comprehensive neural programs that address multiple aspects of productivity simultaneously rather than programming individual behaviors in isolation. This might include programming sequences that integrate motivation, focus, emotional regulation, and execution into seamless behavioral flows that execute automatically in appropriate contexts. Chapter 11. The 90-Day Neural Rewiring Protocol. Permanent neural change doesn't happen overnight, but it doesn't take years either. Neuroscience research shows that significant neural pathway restructuring occurs within 60 to 90 days of consistent practice. The 90-Day Neural Rewiring Protocol is a systematic approach to completely eliminating procrastination by strategically implementing brain-based techniques in a specific sequence that maximizes neuroplasticity and minimizes resistance. The protocol is divided into 3 30-day phases, each targeting different aspects of neural change and building upon the previous phase's foundation. Phase 1 focuses on establishing basic neural pathways and breaking existing procrastination patterns. Phase 2 develops advanced neural networks and integrates multiple systems. Phase 3 consolidates changes and creates self-sustaining neural programs that operate automatically. Days 1 through 30 constitute the foundation phase, where your primary goal is establishing new neural pathways, while your brain still has strong procrastination programming. During this phase, your brain will resist change through what neuroscientists call homeostatic restoration, where your unconscious mind tries to return to familiar patterns. Understanding and working with this resistance is crucial for long-term success. The foundation phase begins with neural pathway mapping, where you systematically identify your current procrastination patterns and the specific neural triggers that activate them. This involves tracking your procrastination episodes for 1 week, noting the specific thoughts, emotions, environmental cues, and time patterns that precede avoidance behaviors. This data becomes the blueprint for targeting your intervention strategies. Week 1 of the foundation phase implements basic neural interruption techniques. Every time you catch yourself beginning to procrastinate, you immediately engage in a pre-planned neural interruption sequence. This might involve taking 5 deep breaths, doing 10 jumping jacks, or asking yourself 3 specific questions about your goals. The key is consistency rather than perfection. You're training your brain to recognize procrastination patterns and respond differently. Week 2 introduces the 2-minute rule and basic habit stacking to begin building positive neural momentum. You select 3 specific tasks that you tend to procrastinate on and commit to doing them for exactly 2 minutes each day, immediately after existing habits. This phase focuses on neural pathway establishment rather than task completion. You're teaching your brain that starting difficult tasks is safe and manageable. Week 3 adds environmental optimization and dopamine scheduling to support your developing neural pathways. You systematically modify your environment to reduce procrastination triggers and increase action triggers. You also begin strategic dopamine management, eliminating high-stimulation activities during work hours and scheduling them as rewards for completing productive tasks. Week 4 integrates basic emotional regulation techniques to address the emotional roots of procrastination. You learn to identify and work with procrastination-triggering emotions rather than avoiding them. This includes daily practice of the RAIN technique and developing emotional tolerance for uncertainty, effort, and potential failure. Days 31 through 60 represent the integration phase, where you combine multiple neural programming techniques and begin developing more sophisticated automated systems. During this phase, your brain's neuroplasticity is at its peak, making this the optimal time for installing complex behavioral programs and advanced neural networks. The integration phase begins with advanced habit stacking where you create comprehensive behavioral chains that execute automatically in response to specific environmental or temporal cues. These habit stacks integrate productivity, emotional regulation, and cognitive optimization into seamless sequences that require minimal conscious effort to maintain. Week 5 implements visualization programming and mental rehearsal techniques to strengthen neural pathways associated with productive action. You spend 10 to 15 minutes daily visualizing yourself successfully completing challenging tasks, focusing on the specific thoughts, emotions, and actions involved in peak performance. This mental practice strengthens the same neural networks used in actual performance. Week 6 introduces flow state training and momentum management systems. You learn to identify your personal flow triggers and create environmental and behavioral conditions that reliably induce flow states. You also develop momentum measurement and optimization techniques that help you sustain productive energy throughout longer work sessions. Week 7 adds advanced neural programming techniques, including state anchoring, cognitive restructuring, and subconscious programming. You create reliable triggers for accessing peak performance states and begin systematically replacing procrastination-supporting thought patterns with action-supporting cognitive programs. Week 8 focuses on system integration and troubleshooting, where you identify any remaining weak points in your neural programming and develop targeted interventions. You also begin developing your personal productivity operating system, a comprehensive set of neural programs that work together to maintain consistent high performance. Days 61 through 90 constitute the consolidation phase, where your goal is creating self-sustaining neural systems that maintain themselves automatically. During this phase, your new neural pathways are becoming stronger than your old procrastination pathways, but they still require conscious maintenance and optimization. The consolidation phase begins with advanced troubleshooting and optimization, where you fine-tune your neural programs based on real-world testing and feedback. You identify specific situations, emotional states, or environmental conditions that still trigger procrastination and develop targeted interventions for these remaining weak points. Week 9 implements advanced momentum and flow optimization techniques. You learn to create compound momentum that builds throughout days and weeks, rather than just individual work sessions. You also develop advanced flow state management that allows you to access flow more reliably and sustain it for longer periods. Week 10 introduces neural program automation, where you transition from consciously applying techniques to having them operate automatically in the background of your daily life. This involves creating environmental and behavioral triggers that activate your neural programs without conscious effort or decision-making. Week 11 focuses on stress testing your neural systems by deliberately exposing them to challenging conditions and potential failure points. You practice maintaining productive neural states under pressure, during setbacks, and in less than optimal conditions. This stress testing strengthens your neural programs and identifies areas needing additional reinforcement. Week 12 implements the neural maintenance system that will preserve your new neural pathways long-term. This includes creating maintenance schedules for key techniques, developing early warning systems for neural program degradation, and establishing refresher protocols that keep your neural networks operating at peak efficiency. Throughout the 90-day protocol, you maintain detailed tracking of your neural programming progress, including daily ratings of motivation levels, procrastination episodes, task completion rates, and subjective well-being measures. This data allows you to optimize your approach and provides concrete evidence of your neural transformation. The protocol also includes weekly review sessions where you analyze your progress, identify what's working and what isn't, and make strategic adjustments to your neural programming approach. These reviews ensure that you're constantly optimizing your neural rewiring process rather than blindly following a predetermined program. By day 90, your new neural pathways should be stronger and more automatic than your old procrastination patterns. The behaviors and mental states that once required conscious effort should now feel natural and effortless. More importantly, your brain should have developed the ability to automatically generate motivation, maintain focus, and take consistent action toward your goals without relying on external circumstances or emotional states. Chapter 12. Overcoming Setbacks and Neural Pattern Disruption. Setbacks are not failures. They're inevitable parts of the neural rewiring process that can actually strengthen your new neural pathways when handled correctly. Your brain's old procrastination patterns don't disappear immediately. When you start building new ones, they remain dormant and can reactivate under stress, fatigue, or unusual circumstances. Understanding how to handle setbacks transforms them from devastating failures into valuable learning opportunities that accelerate your neural development. The neuroscience of setbacks reveals that neural pathway reactivation follows predictable patterns related to stress hormones, cognitive load, and emotional states. When cortisol levels rise due to stress, your brain automatically defaults to familiar behavioral patterns because they require less cognitive energy than newly developed alternatives. This is why people often revert to old habits during challenging life circumstances, even when they've been successfully maintaining new behaviors for weeks or months. Neural pattern disruption occurs when environmental changes, emotional upheavals, or cognitive overload overwhelm your brain's capacity to maintain new behavioral patterns. This isn't a sign of weakness or failure. It's a normal part of how neural systems respond to challenging conditions. The key is developing resilience protocols that help you recover quickly and actually strengthen your neural pathways through the recovery process. The setback prediction system helps you anticipate when neural pattern disruption is most likely to occur, allowing you to prepare protective strategies in advance. High-risk periods include major life changes, increased work stress, relationship difficulties, health challenges, sleep deprivation, and seasonal transitions. By identifying your personal risk factors, you can create targeted prevention and recovery protocols. Immediate setback response protocols minimize the damage when procrastination patterns reactivate and help you regain control quickly. The first step is recognizing that a setback is occurring without falling into shame or self-criticism, which only strengthens negative neural pathways. The second step is implementing damage control measures that prevent the setback from expanding into larger behavioral regression. The 24-hour recovery rule prevents short-term setbacks from becoming long-term pattern regression. When you experience a procrastination episode or miss your planned productive activities, you have 24 hours to re-engage with your positive neural programs before negative momentum builds. This involves immediately implementing your strongest neural programming techniques rather than waiting until you feel motivated again. Neural pathway resilience building involves deliberately exposing your new behavioral patterns to mild stressors and challenging conditions while maintaining your productive responses. This process, similar to physical exercise, strengthens your neural pathways by forcing them to operate under suboptimal conditions. Over time, this builds neural resilience that can withstand greater challenges without reverting to procrastination patterns. The cognitive reframe protocol addresses the negative thought patterns that often accompany setbacks and can trigger extended periods of procrastination. Common setback thoughts include, "I've ruined everything," "I'm back to where I started," or "I don't have enough willpower." These thoughts are neurologically destructive because they activate shame and hopelessness circuits that suppress motivation and action-taking neural networks. Effective cognitive reframing involves understanding that setbacks are temporary neural events rather than permanent character traits or evidence of inevitable failure. A single procrastination episode doesn't erase weeks of neural pathway development. Just as missing one workout doesn't eliminate months of fitness progress, your neural pathways remain intact and can be reactivated quickly with the right interventions. The setback analysis system helps you extract valuable information from procrastination episodes to strengthen your overall neural programming approach. This involves examining the specific conditions that triggered the setback, including environmental factors, emotional states, cognitive load, and physiological conditions. This analysis reveals weak points in your neural programming that need additional reinforcement. Environmental setback triggers often involve changes in physical location, social environment, or daily routine that disrupt the environmental cues, supporting your productive neural pathways. Travel, moving to a new location, changes in work schedule, or disruptions in family routine can all trigger neural pattern disruption. Identifying these triggers allows you to create portable neural programming techniques that work across different environments. Emotional setback triggers include intense emotions like anxiety, anger, sadness, or overwhelm that activate your brain's ancient survival systems and suppress recently developed neural pathways. During emotional intensity, your brain prioritizes immediate safety over long-term goal achievement, making procrastination more likely. Developing emotional regulation skills specifically for these intense states prevents emotions from derailing your neural programming. Physiological setback triggers include factors like sleep deprivation, illness, hormonal changes, or nutritional deficiencies that affect brain chemistry and neural function. When your brain doesn't have the biological resources to maintain complex neural programs, it defaults to simpler, more established patterns. Addressing these physiological factors is crucial for maintaining neural program stability. The Rapid Recovery Protocol helps you regain neural momentum as quickly as possible after a setback. This involves implementing a specific sequence of activities designed to reactivate your productive neural pathways and rebuild positive momentum. The protocol typically includes physical movement to activate energy systems, environmental optimization to restore productive cues, and immediate engagement in easy productive tasks to rebuild confidence. Advanced setback prevention involves creating multiple backup systems and redundant neural pathways that maintain productivity even when primary systems are disrupted. This might include developing multiple different environments where you can work productively, creating various different motivation techniques that work under different conditions, and building social support systems that provide external accountability when internal motivation is low. The setback integration process transforms setbacks from purely negative experiences into valuable components of your overall neural development journey. Each setback provides information about your neural programming weak points and opportunities to develop greater resilience. Over time, people who handle setbacks well often develop stronger neural pathways than those who never experience significant challenges. Long-term setback patterns reveal important information about your neural programming approach and may indicate the need for fundamental adjustments rather than minor optimizations. If setbacks occur frequently or follow predictable patterns, this suggests that your neural programming approach needs modification rather than just better execution. This might involve changing your environmental design, adjusting your emotional regulation strategies, or modifying your habit stacking sequences. The compound resilience effect occurs when successfully recovering from setbacks actually strengthens your neural pathways beyond their previous level. Each successful recovery builds confidence in your ability to maintain productive behaviors under challenging conditions, creating neural pathways associated with resilience and self-efficacy. Over time, this makes you increasingly immune to future setbacks and disruptions. Chapter 13. Advanced Troubleshooting and Optimization. Even with perfect understanding of neural science and flawless implementation of brain-based techniques, you'll encounter specific situations, challenges, and individual variations that require advanced troubleshooting skills. Your brain is unique, your life circumstances are unique, and your neural programming needs will be unique. Advanced troubleshooting involves developing the analytical skills to diagnose problems in your neural systems and create targeted solutions that address your specific challenges. The systematic diagnostic approach treats your neural programming like a sophisticated machine that requires careful analysis when components aren't functioning optimally. This involves isolating variables, testing individual components, and identifying the specific points where your neural systems are breaking down. Most productivity problems aren't caused by general laziness or lack of motivation. They're caused by specific neural programming malfunctions that can be identified and corrected. Neural pathway diagnostic testing involves systematically evaluating different components of your neural programming to identify which elements are working effectively and which need adjustment. This might involve testing your environmental design by working in different locations, testing your habit stacking by modifying the sequence or timing, or testing your emotional regulation by tracking your responses to different emotional states. The energy system analysis recognizes that sustained productivity requires multiple types of energy. Physical energy from your body's biological systems, cognitive energy from your brain's processing capacity, emotional energy from your psychological well-being, and spiritual energy from your sense of purpose and meaning. Problems in any of these energy systems can disrupt your entire neural programming approach. Physical energy troubleshooting addresses how biological factors affect your brain's ability to maintain productive neural states. This includes analyzing your sleep quality and duration, nutritional intake and timing, hydration levels, exercise frequency and intensity, and overall health status. Many apparent motivation problems are actually biological energy problems that can be resolved through lifestyle modifications. Cognitive energy optimization involves understanding how your brain's processing capacity fluctuates throughout the day and designing your neural programming to work with these natural rhythms rather than against them. This includes identifying your peak cognitive performance times, understanding how different types of mental work affect your cognitive reserves, and developing strategies for managing cognitive load effectively. Emotional energy troubleshooting examines how your emotional states and psychological well-being affect your ability to maintain productive behaviors. This includes identifying emotional triggers that consistently disrupt your neural programming developing strategies for managing emotional fluctuations, and ensuring that your neural programming approach supports rather than drains your emotional resources. The Motivation System Diagnostic helps you identify why your motivation levels fluctuate and how to create more consistent motivational states. This involves analyzing your reward systems, goal alignment, progress measurement methods, and intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation sources. Many motivation problems stem from misaligned goals or ineffective reward systems rather than character flaws. Advanced environmental troubleshooting goes beyond basic environmental optimization to address subtle environmental factors that can significantly impact neural programming effectiveness. This includes analyzing air quality, lighting spectrums, acoustic environments, ergonomic factors, and even electromagnetic influences that might affect your brain's functioning in ways you haven't considered. Social environment optimization recognizes that other people significantly influence your neural states and behavioral patterns through mirror neuron responses, social pressure, and emotional contagion. This involves analyzing how different social environments support or undermine your neural programming and developing strategies for managing social influences effectively. The timing optimization system addresses how temporal factors affect your neural programming effectiveness. This includes understanding your circadian rhythms, identifying optimal timing for different types of neural programming techniques, and developing scheduling strategies that align with your brain's natural energy and attention cycles. Habit stacking troubleshooting identifies specific points where your behavioral chains break down and develops targeted solutions for strengthening these weak links. This might involve adjusting the timing between linked behaviors, modifying environmental cues, changing the energy requirements of different chain components, or addressing emotional resistance to specific behaviors in the sequence. Advanced dopamine troubleshooting addresses complex issues with your brain's reward and motivation systems. This includes identifying and correcting dopamine dysregulation from excessive stimulation, developing more sophisticated reward scheduling strategies, and creating personalized dopamine optimization protocols that work with your unique brain chemistry. The neural integration analysis examines how different components of your neural programming work together as an integrated system. Sometimes individual techniques work well in isolation but create conflicts or inefficiencies when combined. This analysis helps you identify and resolve these integration issues to create a smoothly functioning overall system. Stress response optimization addresses how your neural programming performs under different types and levels of stress. This involves identifying your stress triggers, understanding how stress affects your specific neural pathways, and developing stress-resilient neural programming that maintains effectiveness even during challenging periods. The feedback loop optimization process ensures that you're receiving accurate and useful information about your neural programming performance. This involves refining your tracking and measurement systems, identifying leading indicators of neural programming, success or failure, and creating feedback mechanisms that help you make real-time adjustments to your approach. Advanced personalization techniques help you modify general neural programming principles to work optimally with your unique brain characteristics, personality traits, and life circumstances. This involves understanding your personal learning style, motivation patterns, attention characteristics, and emotional regulation tendencies to create a truly customized neural programming approach. The continuous optimization mindset recognizes that neural programming is an ongoing process rather than a one-time implementation. Your brain, life circumstances, and goals will continue evolving. requiring ongoing adjustments and refinements to your neural programming approach. Developing the skills and mindset for continuous optimization ensures long-term success. Failure analysis protocols help you learn from significant breakdowns in your neural programming rather than simply trying to get back on track. This involves conducting detailed post-mortems of major procrastination episodes or productivity failures to identify systemic issues that need addressing rather than just individual mistakes. The neural programming evolution process involves periodically upgrading your entire approach based on new scientific research, personal experimentation, and changing life circumstances. This might involve incorporating new techniques, retiring outdated approaches, or fundamentally restructuring your neural programming to support new goals or life phases. Chapter 14. Scaling your neural systems for maximum impact. Once you've established basic neural programming that reliably prevents procrastination, the next level involves scaling these systems to handle increasingly complex goals, larger projects, and higher levels of performance. Scaling neural systems isn't just about doing more of the same techniques, it's about developing metacognitive abilities that allow you to manage multiple neural programs simultaneously and adapt your approach to handle exponentially greater challenges. The neural system hierarchy concept recognizes that different levels of goals and challenges require different types and scales of neural programming. Simple daily tasks might require basic habit stacking and environmental optimization. Complex projects might need advanced flow state management and sophisticated motivation systems. Life-changing transformations require comprehensive neural rewiring and identity-level programming changes. Metacognitive neural programming involves developing awareness and control over your neural programming processes themselves. Instead of just running specific neural programs, you develop the ability to monitor how well your neural programs are functioning, diagnose problems in real time, and make strategic adjustments to optimize performance. This represents a higher level of neural sophistication that separates exceptional performers from merely good ones. The neural capacity expansion process systematically increases your brain's ability to handle larger and more complex challenges without experiencing overwhelm or reverting to procrastination patterns. This involves gradually increasing the cognitive load, emotional intensity, and time horizons of your neural programming while maintaining consistent performance standards. Project-level neural programming addresses the unique challenges of maintaining productivity and momentum across weeks or months-long projects. This requires developing neural systems that can maintain motivation and focus even when immediate progress isn't visible, handle the emotional ups and downs of complex work, and adapt to changing requirements and unexpected obstacles. The Neural Stamina Development System builds your brain's ability to maintain peak performance for extended periods without experiencing cognitive fatigue or motivational decline. This involves understanding and optimizing your cognitive recovery cycles, developing sustainable performance rhythms, and creating neural programs that maintain themselves automatically even during periods of high demand. Advanced goal integration neural programming addresses the challenge of pursuing multiple significant goals simultaneously without experiencing goal conflict or resource competition. This involves developing neural systems that can switch between different goal contexts efficiently, maintain progress on multiple fronts, and prioritize effectively when resources are limited. The neural leverage principle focuses on identifying and optimizing the specific neural programs that have the greatest impact on your overall performance and goal achievement. Rather than trying to optimize everything simultaneously, this approach identifies the neural programs that create cascading positive effects across multiple areas of your life and focuses optimization efforts on these high-leverage interventions. Social neural programming scaling involves developing neural systems that can maintain peak performance, even in complex social environments with multiple stakeholders, competing priorities, and external pressures. This includes developing neural programs for leadership, collaboration, communication, and influence that support rather than interfere with your individual productivity systems. The neural innovation system involves developing your brain's ability to continuously improve and evolve your neural programming based on new challenges, opportunities, and insights. This moves beyond following predetermined neural programs to developing creative problem-solving abilities that can generate new neural solutions for novel situations. Performance standard scaling addresses the challenge of maintaining high-performance standards as your capabilities and expectations increase. This involves developing neural programs that can handle increasing complexity and ambition without becoming overwhelmed or reverting to previous performance levels. The neural automation advancement process involves transitioning from consciously managing multiple neural programs to having sophisticated neural systems that operate automatically in the background of your life. This represents the highest level of neural programming sophistication, where productivity and peak performance become your default state rather than something you have to consciously create. Multi-domain neural integration involves developing neural programs that simultaneously optimize multiple areas of your life, including career, relationships, health, personal development, and recreation, rather than treating these as separate, competing domains. This requires sophisticated neural programming that creates synergies between different life areas rather than trade-offs. The neural system redundancy principle involves creating multiple pathways to achieve the same outcomes, ensuring that your neural programming remains effective even when specific techniques or circumstances change. This might involve developing multiple different motivation systems, various environmental configurations, or alternative habit sequences that can substitute for each other when needed. Advanced neural pattern recognition involves developing the ability to quickly identify and respond to complex patterns in your neural programming performance. This includes recognizing early warning signs of system breakdown, identifying opportunities for optimization, and detecting patterns that indicate readiness for scaling to higher levels of challenge. The neural programming portfolio approach treats your various neural programs like an investment portfolio, with different programs serving different functions and requiring different levels of maintenance and optimization. This involves strategic allocation of your neural programming efforts to maximize overall life performance rather than perfecting individual techniques. Long-term neural sustainability addresses the challenge of maintaining sophisticated neural programming over years and decades as your life circumstances, goals, and brain chemistry continue evolving. This involves developing neural programs that can adapt and evolve rather than becoming rigid or obsolete over time. The neural mastery integration process involves combining technical neural programming skills with wisdom, intuition, and life experience to create a comprehensive approach to human performance optimization. This represents the highest level of neural programming development, where scientific techniques are integrated with deep self-knowledge and life wisdom. Neural system teaching and mentoring involves developing the ability to help others implement effective neural programming, which deepens your own understanding and creates additional accountability and motivation for maintaining your own systems. Teaching neural programming to others often reveals optimization opportunities that you wouldn't discover through individual practice alone. Chapter 15. The complete neural transformation. You are not the same person who started this journey. Every technique you've learned, every neural pathway you've strengthened, every moment you've chosen action over avoidance, has literally rewired your brain at the cellular level. The neural networks that once automatically triggered procrastination have been weakened through disuse. The neural pathways that support focus, motivation, and consistent action have been strengthened through repetition and reinforcement. You have successfully reprogrammed your brain's operating system. The neuroplasticity research is clear. Your brain has physically changed. New myelin sheaths have formed around neural pathways associated with productivity and goal achievement. Dendrites have grown new connections that make productive thoughts and behaviors more likely. Neurotransmitter production has optimized to support sustained motivation and focus. Your brain's default mode network now defaults toward action rather than avoidance. This transformation extends far beyond productivity. When you change your brain's fundamental patterns around effort, challenge, and goal pursuit, you change your entire relationship with life itself. Tasks that once felt overwhelming now feel manageable. Goals that once seemed impossible now feel inevitable. Challenges that once triggered anxiety now generate excitement and engagement. The identity shift that accompanies neural transformation is, perhaps, the most profound change of all. Your brain now identifies you as someone who follows through on commitments, who takes consistent action toward goals, who faces challenges directly rather than avoiding them. This identity shift happens automatically as your brain observes your new behavioral patterns and updates its self-concept accordingly. Your relationship with discomfort has fundamentally changed. Instead of automatically avoiding anything that feels difficult or uncertain, you've developed the neural capacity to move toward discomfort with confidence and curiosity. This single change opens up exponentially more possibilities in every area of your life. Because most worthwhile achievements require sustained effort through temporary discomfort, the compound effects of your neural transformation will continue building for years to come. Every goal you achieve builds confidence and strengthens achievement-oriented neural pathways. Every challenge you overcome increases your brain's resilience and adaptability. Every day you maintain productive habits reinforces your identity as someone who creates the life they want rather than waiting for life to happen to them. Your brain's motivation system now operates from abundance rather than scarcity. Instead of needing external circumstances to feel motivated, you've developed the ability to generate motivation internally through your neural programming techniques. This means you're no longer at the mercy of your environment, emotions, or circumstances to determine your productivity and progress. The emotional regulation skills you've developed extend far beyond productivity into every relationship and life situation. When you can remain calm and focused under pressure, think clearly during emotional intensity, and choose responses based on your values, rather than immediate impulses, you gain tremendous advantages in career advancement, relationship quality, and personal fulfillment. Your time relationship has completely transformed. Instead of time feeling scarce and pressured, you now experience time as abundant and manageable because you're using it effectively. When you eliminate procrastination and optimize your neural systems for productivity, you accomplish more in less time while experiencing less stress and greater satisfaction. The ripple effects of your transformation impact everyone around you. Your family benefits from your increased focus and reduced stress. Your colleagues benefit from your enhanced reliability and performance. Your friends benefit from your improved emotional regulation and presence. Neural transformation is never just individual. It creates positive impacts that extend through all your relationships. Your relationship with goals has evolved from hoping and wishing to systematic achievement. You now understand that goals are achieved through neural programming rather than motivation or willpower. This knowledge gives you confidence to pursue increasingly ambitious objectives because you have a reliable system for turning any goal into automatic daily actions. The learning acceleration you've experienced through neural programming will continue serving you in every area where you want to grow. Your brain has learned how to learn efficiently, how to install new behavioral patterns quickly, and how to adapt to new challenges with resilience and creativity. These meta skills make every future learning and development effort more effective. Your stress response has been fundamentally reprogrammed. Instead of stress triggering procrastination and avoidance, challenging situations now automatically activate your problem-solving and action-taking neural networks. This means that pressure and adversity actually enhance your performance rather than degrading it. The neural programming skills you've developed are transferable to any area of life where you want to create change. Whether you want to improve your health, enhance your relationships, develop new skills, or pursue creative projects, you now have the neural tools to systematically create any behavioral change you desire. Your brain's reward system has been recalibrated to find deep satisfaction in effort, progress, and achievement, rather than requiring external validation or immediate gratification. This creates sustainable motivation that doesn't depend on other people's approval or external circumstances to maintain your drive and ambition. The confidence you've developed through neural mastery is qualitatively different from confidence based on external achievements or other people's opinions. This is confidence rooted in your proven ability to direct your own neural activity, to choose your responses to any situation, and to systematically create the outcomes you desire through consistent action. Your future self is now a clear, achievable vision rather than a vague hope. Because you understand how to bridge the gap between current reality and desired outcomes through neural programming, you can confidently pursue long-term visions, knowing that you have the tools to turn any vision into reality through systematic daily action. The most profound realization is that you were never actually limited by external circumstances, lack of willpower, or character defects. You were limited by neural programming that you didn't choose and didn't understand. Now that you've taken conscious control of your neural programming, you've unlocked your brain's unlimited capacity for growth, achievement, and contribution. Moving forward, you're not just someone who has overcome procrastination. You're someone who has mastered the fundamental skill of human existence, the ability to direct your own mind toward your chosen outcomes. This skill will serve you for the rest of your life and continue growing more sophisticated and powerful as you apply it to increasingly meaningful goals and challenges. Your transformation is complete, but your journey is just beginning. You now have the neural tools to create any life you can imagine, to pursue any goal that inspires you, and to contribute to the world in whatever way calls to you. The only question remaining is, what will you choose to create with your newly mastered brain? The world needs people who have developed neural mastery, who can think clearly under pressure, who follow through on important commitments, and who systematically create positive change rather than waiting for it to happen. You are now one of those people. Use your neural mastery not just for personal success, but for contributing something meaningful to the world around you. Your brain is no longer your limitation. It's your greatest tool for creating the life you want and making the impact you're capable of making. The neural pathways you've built will continue serving you for decades to come, growing stronger and more sophisticated as you apply them to increasingly ambitious and meaningful pursuits. Procrastination is now permanently in your past. Consistent action toward meaningful goals is your new default. Welcome to the rest of your transformed life.